this race, the first round of the season, will start
Green, green, green.
right now.
That's Stuart Adcock coming through there on the outside. He'll have the inside line for turn number 2 as we head out of turn number 1. He's on the grass a little bit, but he can hold it in there. Inside line there for Stuart Adcock. Not quite able to hold the same pressure. Ward's going to have a big run this time. Oh, he gets boxed in behind the lap car. Had really blunted his charge, and he's lost a huge amount of speed. Here comes Simon Povey, who's going to just completely fly past Tom Ward.
Down the hill again, and Ewan Patterson is coming into this as well, trying to make it 3 wide, but there's definitely no room. And now Hendy's getting involved as well. It's going to be 2 by 2 coming down the front straight away here to the finish line.
Hold on to that lead. He's going to be able to clear him though. No, he's not used. He's going to have the inside for turn number 2, and now they're right on the back of the lap traffic. This is going to get contact.
And there's a car going off in front of him. 2 cars actually going to park in the middle of the track. Oh no, Ben Evans.
Other Mills and is still leading, but don't be surprised if they try and go 3 wide, they're heading down to turn 1 and even 4 wide as it looks like Gears are going to do it.
For almost 11 years, Monday nights has been the fixture for UK and Ireland to go racing in low-powered, open-wheeled cars. And today, for the very final time, a series that has fostered so much community and seen so many talents both in the virtual world of driving and commentary make their way on forward, heads out racing for the final time at America's Motorsports Resort. Hello everyone, welcome along to RaceSpotTV, what is a slightly somber occasion. My name is Arjuna Kankipati, joined alongside by Linus Brostrom. Linus, so much history has taken place in this Monday night Skippys, and for the final time today, the drivers will go out there and go racing.
Yeah, it's been a series that's been ran for several years. A lot of drivers have come through here, a lot of great drivers as well who's moved on to bigger things. I myself have commentated on this series for over 6 years until we stopped now about a year ago, and it's sad to see it going, but unfortunately the participation has dropped lately, so I guess it's inevitable in the end.
It is, and the Skip Barber has, been a staple of iRacing since its launch 15 odd years ago, and now the drivers not even competing in that car. They're on to the newer Formula 1600 machine. We'll talk about that in a few moments time. Let's talk about the schedule that these drivers have been running around in this very final season of action. It started at Alton Park, has seen them travel the globe as ever, touching not just in Europe and America, but making a trip to Australia and to Phillip Island as well. It does seem, Linus, like a pretty ideal sort of schedule for these sort of cars.
Yeah, it's got a mixed variety, all sorts of track, big tracks, small tracks, tight tracks, wide tracks, and all over the world. So there's a little bit of everything for everybody, and I guess tonight's track is a little bit too long for these cars, but it's definitely going to give us some great racing, that's for sure.
There is plenty of draft to be had here, that is for sure, even with the twisty corners that we will see. If you're wondering about championship standings going into this final round of the season, well, Clark Williams has a bit of a points buffer to Mick Watson and Daniel Tufts, but with participation slightly changing for today and with some new faces re-entering the equation, we expect that there's going to be plenty of excitement even outside of potential championship tussles. There are drivers underway for qualifying right now. They get 10 minutes and the track to themselves. 3 laps to attack this Virginia International Raceway. And currently sitting at the very top of those qualifying standings is Keith Sharp, but the margin's pretty tight through the entirety of the field.
Yeah, it usually is in these cars. Obviously on a big track like this, the margins will spread out a little bit, but at the minute we have just over or just under a couple of tenths between first and second, and still a lot of drivers left to settle their times. But usually in this series, no matter the track, there's always a few drivers at least within a second, and it looks like that's going to keep going here for the last round as well.
You definitely get battle packs in this sort of racing, that is for sure. Tim Adcock in 5th will not get another chance to finish a time. As soon as the clock strikes 0, the drivers must finish the lap that they are on. Simon Maltby of Sim Racing Machines runs his way to the line in the number 7 Formula 1600, as the name implies, 1600cc, relatively low powered, and that's why we expect the racing to be so close. A little bit off the mark there, but expect the racing trim to be that much closer. Let's talk a little bit about some of your memories though, Linus. You've been commentating on this series for so many years. Talk us through some of the things that you remember.
Well, this is basically where I started my commentating career, after doing a few races with the British touring cars thing that we had back on Race 07, I think. So yeah, I've drone through this, gone on to do some other things afterwards, but there's been a lot of great battles. I remember a lot of the names that are here today. I think there's only one guy I don't remember commentating on, so it's great to see some of them back. I remember we had a 4-wide situation at the Nordschleife once, where everybody crashed out, and then we had a race maybe that, I can't even remember the track, but we had 2 drivers leading by over 10 seconds coming to the last lap. Nobody wanted to lead onto the long straightaway, and none of them ended up winning the race.
That is the way that sometimes it rolls, but qualifying is done for the final time here for the Monday Night Skippies. Ready to go racing at America's Motorsports Resorts. Let's run you down through today's starting grid. It will be Mark Mercer with a 158.601 that brings us to the green. Almost 2/10 off is Keith Sharp, while Daniel Tufts and then James Barrington will share row number 2. 1 second back to the inside of row 3, where the Alpha Live number 5 of Chris Simpson shares the row with Tim Adcock, who brings a very yellow and orange car into the equation. Anthony Catt, Jamie Bird, Mark Van Dalen, and then Raphael Joust make up the rest of your top 10. It's Rhys Saunders and Chris Wayne, 11th and 12th positions, with hopefully not unlucky 13th. For Clark Williams, the points leader. David M. Dawson in 14th spot with Alan Patterson, Simon Maltby, David Clapham, Damien Gee through the 18 cars that will get ready to go. And for what seems to be a rolling formation start, I blitz through the grid expecting the traditional Skip Barber standing start, but I guess Linus, we're going to have to roll around for a lap and then set these cars off with a bit of momentum into turn number 1.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see a rolling start. I think usually, well, every time that we commentate on this, it used to be standing start, but I guess in the Formula 1600s they've changed it to rolling, so pretty long pace lap here, so we still got some ways to go before we go green.
Yeah, and that's, I think, the time for us to continue to reminisce on so much that has happened. Great to see. You saw in the championship standings that effectively only really seen 10 cars around for parts of this season, a field of 18 getting ready to go. Ryan Walker in the chat talking about some of his memories of commentating and racing. There was a 4-wide moment at Suzuka. Yeah, the Skip Barbers definitely produced a lot of racing, and we talked about, you know, yourself, Connery Maddox, so many commentators making their journey through this series in particular. Let's not forget the likes of Sebastian Job, an iRacing world champion, and even the likes of Lando Norris, Linus, have been a member of this Monday night community in the past.
Yes, he has. There are so many big names that's come through here, I can't even remember them all, and I'm not going to mention them because then I'm going to mention someone who's not been here. But yeah, seeing Sebastian Job coming through here and where he is today is pretty amazing to see how far he's gone. He was obviously a top driver in this series as well. So yeah, it's been a stepping stone for a lot of people in the UK&I sim racing community, that's for sure.
Yeah, but of course, Sebastian Job now an Oracle Red Bull Racing test driver in their simulator. There's the long-time series organizer, Alan Patterson. I went back to the iRacing page to see when this league was established. 2012, October the 17th. Almost 11 years of competition for these drivers. All started, of course, with the inaugural campaign. Made the switch over to this Formula 4 2 seasons ago, so they've not had much time in this car. I think we're excited for what we're going to see. The one thing that I will note is I do feel like we're going to be in, Linus, for a bit of a split race where we'll see a couple of cars break away at the front and then maybe chaos further back.
Yeah, hopefully, since it's the last ever race, they'll be careful at the start. But yeah, looking at the qualifying times, there are 3 guys up at the front, maybe 4 guys who are pretty quick, and then from there, from 7th down to 14th, you have under 3/10 separating them. So the mid-pack or back-pack of this race is going to be very, very close. I just hope they can make it through turn 1, but I guess in these cars, on a track as twisty as this, chaos is inevitable.
And you got grass on either side, not much runoff to necessarily speak of. This is one of the most distinctive sections of the track as you rise your way up. There's no oak tree on the inside of the corner that leads you onto the back straightaway, but it is just as difficult as it was even with the shade cast down. And this is where expect the draft to build to be 2, maybe 3, maybe even 4 wide as you run into the primary passing opportunity. But these drivers only a couple of moments from getting underway. One thing that in a 25-minute race that we're not going to be too worried about today, Linus, is any sort of concerns about tires. These are very hard tires designed to go as long as possible.
Yeah, I guess it's the same as in the Skippys. You can just attack from the beginning and maybe towards the end you'll be overheating a little bit, but there's not a lot of weight in these cars and the tires are very durable. Fuel is not going to be an issue, so it's a 25-minute sprint going 100% from the get-go. So it's all down to the drivers basically. There's no strategy or anything, just going from green flag to the finish.
So you say you've commentated on everyone in the field at least once, you think. So I'm going to put you on the spot. Who comes out on top in this one, Linus?
I'm going to say Mark Mercer, not because he's on pole, but he just seems to be quick. Obviously Tufts and Keith Sharp were quicker in practice, but he just looks a bit more steady.
This is maybe one of those races where pole position is not that important for the final time in almost 11 years of history on this Monday night UK and Ireland community. The pace car is off and away. The field left in control of Mark Mercer. It's no longer the Skippys, but Monday night Formula Ford action is green at the Virginia International Raceway, and Mark Mercer will lead them on that rise up in towards the opening corner, side by side behind them, and a big lunge by the 34 of Tufts into the opening corner. 3 wide behind, but safely through they all navigate, and now into the opening sector where it gets twisty very, very quickly.
Yeah, looked like it was going to be chaos. They're going 4 wide already into turn number 1, but a very clean start. Mercer, Tufts and Sharp getting away a little bit here, but Barrington holding on to 4th, and then Mark Van Dalen has gone from 9th all the way up to 5th already. There's some people dropping back as well, but it looks like everyone's going to get single file now coming up through the SS here for the first time, so nice to see a clean start and no one going off the track.
Look at those green and red markers, by the way. Tim Adcock's lost 6 positions so far. Clark Williams +5, Rhys Saunders +5 as well. These are the chances to really make your statement in the early stages, but you don't want to lose too much ground by any means as well by fighting too hard. Van Dalen's going to try and cover off Saunders in towards turn number 12. Going to slide on through the 17, but maybe now compromise down the back straightaway.
Yeah, Van Dalen is going to get a better exit, but I'm not sure if he's going to be able to take that run. We'll see what happens down here. If they're smart, they can work together, but I think Van Dalen will want to get that spot back right away. He's getting really close here, looking to the inside now. Almost looks like he's trying to side draft. They're moving really close. Side by side, down towards the left-hander. Saunders is early on the brakes, though, giving that position back to Van Dalen, who will retake 5th place there. Smart move. And
swap around at the front for Daniel Tufts, who now cycles in front of Mercer. I think it seems like almost a full kilometer or such running out of turn 12 into...
we have a car off.
Oh, and it's Raphael Joust in the Semper Racing number 8, and hard into the barriers as well.
Not sure what happened there. I think he just caught the grass slightly, and well, cars don't really run well on grass, and I think the banking is leaning out from the track as well, so not easy to get back on there. But Daniel Tufts holding the lead here into turn number 1, just ahead of Mercer. Sharp is right there as well. It looks like we have a little bit of a 4-car breakaway here, courtesy of Van Dalen and Rhys Saunders battling there at the beginning of, or towards the end of the first lap. But maybe they can catch back up. Everyone still seems to, apart from Joust there, obviously, still on track with no incidents.
Saunders and Van Dalen. From the YouTube chat, Ryan Walker jumping in, our teammate, so they'll try and work together, maybe slingshot with one another and use the draft to try and latch on towards those at the very front. Raphael Joust is down on pit lane, and this is the reason why. Down the hill and just making the mistake all by himself, and then left side's hard into the wall.
Yeah, and these open wheel cars are very sensitive to contact like that, so I don't think he's going to be able to keep on going. Just gets a little bit sideways, and Off he goes, unfortunately. Yes, we have another incident.
Rhys Saunders and Van Dalen, the teammates, have come to blows, and it's all on that rise up into turn number 11. And now off the corner, it's going to be Clark Williams and Chris Simpson that are battling their way down the back straightaway.
Here we go. The all famous Monday Night Skippys 3 wide coming down the back straightaway. Clark Williams holding position for now. Through the middle comes Bird, and he will take them both as Simpson backs out early, and Williams is going to stay 7th, and Bird goes off.
Just way overcooks the roller coaster, tries to find a run almost in towards Canada, and it's going to see Jamie Bird down outside of the top 10. So easy to make a small mistake, and Jamie Bird unfortunately is joined in sympathy by the points leader Clark Williams.
And Bird managed to rejoin though, way back in the pack, but he's going to have to enter the pits. Williams coming back onto the track slightly sideways, as well as the 2 teammates going on pit road here as well. David Clapham actually on pit road too, so I'm not sure what's happened to him. But Clark Williams has rejoined the race in P11, right behind league organizer Alan Patterson here.
Yeah, it's plenty of drama, and let's take a look at what happened starting down the hill, where on this machine we can see both of the year 1 paints, and it's the 13 that gets tangled up with the incident from Rhys Saunders. So Van Dalen not necessarily making the mistake by himself, and then we can pick up the run down in towards the roller coaster section. Jamie Bird in the middle and about to go a little bit too deep under the brakes.
Yeah, it's very easy to do. You get the momentum, you get one spot, you get a second one, you're happy about getting 2 positions, and then just overcook it slightly, and it's so easy to do. Gets up on the curb, and yeah, just brakes way too late, and I think he's going to contact the wall here as well, unfortunately, but keeps on going.
I think he might have gotten away with it without too much damage. Then what happened to Williams, it's the second part of the corner where he just pushed out too wide. It wasn't even getting too much of a bobble or anything, just ran himself out of road. Back up towards the front though, as the 4-car train at the front sees a bit of a swap around. Mercer's going to hold off Sharp at least for the time being, but with these drivers now seeing plenty of separation back to Anthony Cat in 5th, surely 20 minutes to go, they can afford to fight.
Yeah, they have about 5 seconds from Barrington down to Cat, so it's gonna be these 4 guys battling it out for the lead. As long as none of them lose the draft, I think all of them have a great chance, especially with that draft down the back straightaway. Whoever is leading on the last lap, I don't think is going to win this, which is how it usually goes. And here comes Mercer up to the inside of Daniel Tufts, and he's not going to put up a fight. He's late on the brakes. They're pretty even, but Mercer with the inside will get the position. Sharp moving in there as well. Tufts almost trying to cross over, but Mercer staying tight, holding on to that position.
Nicely done, and I think you're right. It's one of those races where you don't want to lead on the final lap, but I almost wonder if it's more distinct than that. You don't want to be leading coming out of turn 12 onto the back straight. It's fine to lead at the line as long as you're passed into turn number 1. The real problem is not being the one that gets slingshotted on the final lap. I guess the question also becomes, would you rather be 2 cars in line, or would you rather get the double tow? Because maybe that could be even more of a benefit to you. As these drivers cycle their way up through the S's, you can just see how much lateral load goes into the tires, how much they have to work at the car to keep it underneath them. And while these drivers have had it relatively easy so far, there are some drivers who have not had it so fun, and Anthony Cat's having to fight now with Chris Simpson as this battle behind starts to cost themselves even more time.
It does. Cat will have the position though going on to the back straightaway, but Simpson's going to get a good draft here right behind him. Chris Wayne got a bit sideways onto the straight, so he will not be part of the equation for this lap. See how quickly Simpson can catch up to him. Will it be enough to make a move? It will be. He's going to move to the inside, and I think he will be clear by the time we get to the braking zone, almost anyway. Cat a little bit early on the brakes there to let Simpson have the position, because it's not ideal to go side by side. Oh, as Wayne goes off and into the barrier and backs off the track behind him.
Yep, that is the shot from behind. Meanwhile, at the front, Mark Mercer has dropped behind Keith Sharp as lap traffic might end up being a bit of a factor in the probably next handful of laps. You can see James Barrington popping out and trying to drop Mercer to the very tail end of this queue, and at the same time Sharp looking around the outside of that 34 machine, and there is a swap around as the lap car goes deep into the corner, and a new race leader for the first time in a couple of laps.
Sharp right back to the point, and every time we get to this part of the track, these guys are way tighter than they are at the top of the hill, by the looks of it. Now Mercer is there as well, trying to look to the inside of Tufts, but you don't really want to make a move here. Let's see now how this lap traffic comes into play. It's David Clapham who had issues early on. I think he's going to get out of their way, but they're going to catch him in a very awkward position here, coming up through the S's, but he pulls over to the side and lets them go right in between the two S parts, so that's a very good job from Clapham.
Makes the life of the top four just that little bit easier. We're on the 5th lap of racing with 16 minutes still to go. Lap time's hovering about 2 minutes. We probably have 7 or 8 more attempts at rolling around VIR after this one. Time is ticking away for the likes of Barrington to be able to move on forward. You can't necessarily, even with so much more draft in 4th position, fight your way forward in the closing stages, and you really can't afford to be dipping 2 wheels into the gravel and losing momentum on this run into the next corner.
Yeah, definitely not. 4th place I think is going to be way too far back. 3rd place, it's going to be close. 2nd place, you can definitely make a move, but you still run the risk of losing to 3rd place. As Tufts that time actually lifted out and decided to stay behind Keith Sharp, and he made that move already halfway down the straightaway, so that just shows how big the slipstream is in these cars. But yeah, if you're in 3rd place, you've got to be super close to 2nd place if you want to make a move. So going on to the last lap is going to be interesting to see how these guys will position themselves. But the gap down to P5 is now up to 8 seconds, so they're not in the danger zone of losing out to them at least. As here comes Mercer to the outside of Tufts. Tufts moving to the inside of Sharp for the lead. 3 wide into turn 1, but Mercer backs out as he follows now Tufts up to the inside, and Sharp will lose out 2 positions there in 1 braking zone.
And so Tufts back into your race lead with 14 minutes still to go. But once again, it is not Barrington that's able to get involved in the duking and dicing. Chris Simpson in front of Anthony Cat. Clark Williams on the recovery drive jumps in front of Tim Adcock. There are plenty of drivers trying to work their way back up into a decent finishing spot. No pit stops, of course. Remember, in a 25-minute sprint, it's all about pushing yourself to the very limit. One thing that we've already mentioned is here at VIR, there is not much runoff that you can avail yourself of. Means that while there is an incident point penalty that you can have every 15 incident points, if you get 15 incidents at VIR, you probably have got bigger problems than that. So hopefully no driver going to be needing to serve any sort of penalty, although Raphael Joust, the only retiree of the race. Back onto the run into the roller coaster section, this time with Tufts punching a hole in the air, and once again 3-4 car lengths between the top 2, and now as you begin that climb, the gap starts to shrink and the race leader under pressure again.
Mercer getting closer. Will he make the move this time? He will back out as well, as will 3rd place and 4th, so no one really wanting to make a move down here. I guess unless you're sure that you can be clear, making a move this early in the race isn't necessary, because you don't want to risk going side by side down through there, because it's so easy to make contact and go off. And as we've seen, 2nd place will usually make the pass down the front straightaway going into turn 1 instead, though this time Mercer has a bit of an issue there through the final corners, and the gap up to Tufts is a bit bigger, so now Sharp is going to make a move on Mercer instead to the outside, as you can see, but Mercer will still catch up to Tufts, will not send it up the inside though, and they will keep the order that they had going onto the straightaway. But again, they're much closer to Tufts than they were going onto the straight, so yeah, every single corner going onto a long straightaway here can really make or break the race for you, especially coming onto the last lap.
And a lot of what they're doing right now is figuring out how powerful that draft is, what they can do to use that draft to get in front, because on the final lap you need to have that figured out. You need to know what move's going to be the most effective, and so it's a bit of trial and experimentation going on right now, I would say. These 4 drivers still separated by just a second or so. Chris Simpson, Anthony Cat, as they continue to fight. David Dawson has been able to latch on to the back of them in what is now a 3-car tandem for 5th spot.
Yeah, these guys have stayed pretty stationary, just swapping back and forth every time on the straightaway. Dawson trying to keep up, but he can't really get much closer. He will need to get a few tenths on these guys to be able to sneak right up with the draft, and now he's actually getting a bit closer this time, so maybe he will be able to catch up as Cat goes a bit sideways, and now Dawson is there.
In that Chelsea liveried machine, big snap of oversteer for Anthony Cat, and now will have to try and contend with a challenge from behind. Mercer and Tufts will be side by side as they work up into the roller coaster for the 7th time of asking. Mercer in the white, yellow, and black slides back to the point, and Daniel Tufts drops the 3rd for the first time in almost since lap number 1 as Keith Sharp gets the elbows out. You can already now start to see that some of these drivers have a little bit more confidence in making these moves.
They definitely do, and I think Barrington will need to start making moves soon as well if he wants any shot at winning this, because he's not going to get it done from 4th. As here comes Sharp now to the outside, looking for the lead on Mercer. Side by side into the braking zone. We'll be able to get to move down around the outside, I think, or Sharp, sorry, on the outside. Mercer was on the inside. I think he braked a bit early there because Tufts is going to go around him as well. So 2 positions dropped there for Mercer. I'm not really sure why he braked that early, but 2 positions dropped for him.
Just a little bit tentative on the brakes, and small mistake costing big time potentially there. Anthony Cat now continuing to drop time and positions behind that number 1 machine, and not the only fight coming through that opening sector. Clark Williams, Tim Adcock, the white and green, the yellow and orange 18 and 21 are involved in their little fight, and long-time series organizer Alan Patterson and Damien Key, well, they found each other for 10th and 11th positions. That is kind of what I was alluding to at the start, Linus. No matter how fast you are in this car around this track, you will find someone to tango with and to be racing with.
Yeah, you tend to get that, especially in these kind of cars and on these kind of tracks. There's always these groups, and very rarely someone ends up being alone unless they have an incident. And as we see now, there are pairs of cars everywhere. As Anthony Cat has gone off again in the same corner up at the top of the hill. Not sure what's happened there.
And now Alan Peterson has done a very similar thing. He's been able to keep it under control, maybe a little bit more successfully. There is Anthony Cat. No changes really at the front, by the way. So as the top 4 continue to just run their way around, let's go ahead and see if we can pick up what happened there that saw Anthony Cat run wide and then followed behind as through the final corner, up and under for Mercer.
Yeah, Tufts got a bit sideways. They're going to lose a lot of momentum, so maybe this is Barrington's opportunity to make a move up into the top 3 and potentially even up into 2nd as Tufts drops down to 4th, but Barrington early on the brakes, making sure to slot in behind Mercer there, so Sharp will hold on to the lead this time around at least. So now Mercer will be the one trying to find the momentum going on to the straightaway.
A bit of separation now between 2nd and 3rd. Tufts has got to be cognizant of the fact that finding too much could draw these 2 away. Here's what happened though, as we grab a look at the replay of the 25 experience, and just the rear snapping around in a rather vicious way, and then as Alan Patterson came around to the very same complex of corners through the south bend, just ran wide by himself, and yeah, good car control to cause less drama than we saw from Rhys Saunders and from Mark van Dalen earlier on. 8 minutes means, what, 4 laps to go or so at the line. Said Mark Mercer was going to win before the green flag. How are you feeling about that pick right now, Linus?
Well, it's kind of hard to tell. At the moment, I think it's between Sharp, Mercer, and Tufts, unless Barrington can keep moving up here. But Tufts is all over the back of Barrington. But I think I'm going to stick to Mercer for now, because he seems... I mean, it's anybody's game, really. Yes. But I'm not going to change my mind this late in the race. As here comes Barrington.
You know how some would say flip a coin, you need a 4-headed die to be rolling right now. It does not help if you run off the track like Mark Mercer did on the entry into the braking zone. Gets it back onto the black stuff, but a scary, nervy moment on the 9th lap of the race.
Almost had an instant commentator's curse there for the 2nd time I'm asking in this race alone, so that could have been bad.
Some people don't believe in the commentator's curse, you know?
I mean, Ryan was able to do it even when he's not commentating with the teammates earlier on at the top of the hill, so...
Oh, that's a good point. Very impressive from Ryan Walker there. Side by side for third. We're about to be side by side, I think, for the lead as well, as Mercer cuts underneath of Sharp. Tufts goes to third, and bye-bye to Keith Sharp, who overcommits and sails into the grass.
That is it for him for this race, I think. A little bit early to be pushing that hard, but obviously that shows how much these guys are pushing and how much they really want to be in the lead at any given point in this race. Apart from onto the straightaway on the last lap, obviously, as Tufts almost runs into the back of Mercer. They're trying to be as close as possible coming up through the S's, and as we get a replay here, you're going to see what happens. He just clips the grass ever so slightly, gets sideways and goes off. Thankfully for him, he's able to rejoin in fourth though, but yeah, and the chance at the podium is gone here unless something happens at the front.
And then 4 became 3. Barrington suddenly in a great spot to take advantage of a double toe, but as Mark Mercer with a 4-wheel drift over the crest at turn number 10, and we haven't seen the 282 be able to really get into the mix just yet, and now we're going to have to see that aggression, the level of assertiveness to put the car into a 3-wide situation that might now present itself. Look at the actual climb that the drivers have. That is partially why there is such a significant impact from the draft, but Daniel Tufts pops out of it, doesn't want to get past just yet, wants to wait to make the move slightly later in the race.
Yeah, and going onto that straightaway, I noticed actually Mercer and Tufts are going a lot wider on the curb, as Mercer gets a bit wider than Barrington was, so they get more speed going onto that straightaway. So we have a car off on the right there, not really sure who that is. Let's try and figure out, but he's going for a picnic somewhere, I believe, as he comes back on the track actually.
I think that's Mark Van Dalen in the Year 1 liveried car that's going to head off to the pit lane. Not been an easy day for him after being involved with teammate contact. Never what you want to see. Daniel Tufts around the outside, going to be challenging for the lead as James Barrington tries to lurk and cut back underneath the 34, but better drive off the corner for the purple car, and Mercer has the lead, but only by a sliver.
As we got, I guess, 3 laps to go now, side by side here through NASCAR Bend up towards the S's, but Tufts back at the front. Barrington just sitting back there waiting for something to happen, watching these two guys battling it out, maybe hoping that for the last lap his tires will be just that slight bit better. That might help him get a better run onto the straightaway, or maybe make a send into the last set of corners. But definitely still keeping up, so it's going to be hard to tell who's going to make this work, as Mercer high up on the curbs there compared to Tufts, and one slip through these turns and your race will definitely be over, but you can't slow down too much and play it safe either, because you'll lose the draft instantly.
No, definitely not. They are putting so much latitude and yaw through the tires. Big snap there for Mercer. Might not compromise him too much, and this is what Linus was saying. Barrington a bit tighter on the exit of turn number 11. Tufts and Mercer running wide and potentially risking kicking up a bit of gravel on the exit of the corner. Not thinking there's going to be a swap around at the very front, but can Barrington look inside of second? No change around as we get ready to dive onto the penultimate lap of the race. 3 cars still in contention at the very front.
Coming up on a bit of lap traffic as well here. He's still quite far ahead. It's Chris Wayne. But they might catch him on the last lap, and if they catch him going onto the straight, that's definitely going to help whoever is leading, as Mercer falls back from Tufts again, but the straightaway is long enough here that I think he's going to be able to catch up and maybe make a move. Here comes Barrington though. He's looking like he's going to make a move to the outside of Mercer, but he backs out early and keeps them all single file going into turn number 1 here on lap number 12.
I think the expectation should be Mark Mercer is not going to put an attack up just yet. For Barrington, maybe there's a bit more urgency there to make something happen. Also looking at Clark Williams alongside with Tim Adcock. The two have been involved in a tussle since the early stages of the race. The green of Williams on the outside and almost clear on the entry into the opening corner, but commitment from Adcock up the inside to defend the position, and it's all as a machine makes a mistake in front, and Dawson's now going to get swarmed.
4-car battle coming up here now that Dawson joins these guys, and Cat is right behind, and these are 4 names that I remember commentating on almost every single season that I've done this, so 4 long-time veterans here going at it for 6th, 7th, 8th and 9th with 2 laps to go.
It's incredible. Just see as well. Put 20 minutes of racing through, and still 3 cars at the front, 4 cars behind. This Formula 1600 has carried on the legacy of the Skippys in producing some close racing. There's the traffic that Linus was touching on. Simon Maltby is going to give the draft, not just to Tufts, Mercer and Barrington as well.
Whoa.
That was a rather desperate move from Mercer to try and get as much of the toe as possible. Not going to get him closer to the lead though. 1 more lap to go, and Daniel Tufts looks pretty comfortable.
He really does. He gets great speed onto that straightaway, and for some reason Mercer can't really catch up. So wondering if maybe he's going to put a move on him here going into turn 1, but if Tufts is that quick down the straight, Mercer is not going to have any chance unless Barrington somehow sneaks through with him as well. As we have a car off there in the background, that is Chris Wayne, the 16 car, rejoining the race now, as Mercer to the inside of Tufts puts 2-wheel in the grass, almost wheel to wheel. Here comes Barrington. Not able to make it 3 wide, I don't think, but Mercer making sure he has it all the way to the inside. Tufts trying to slot in between them. Barrington now to the inside of Tufts. Mercer makes it to the point, and Barrington will have to give up there. So Tufts only down to 2nd, but white flag is out. It's the final lap of the race, final lap of the Monday Night Skippys ever.
It's the very final chapter of an 11-year story. One final victory to go, and it is Mark Mercer that's going to lead us onto that back straightaway for the very final time. Tufts and Barrington tucked into that draft and hoping to try and get closer. We haven't forgotten about 6th now on backers after Dawson's mistake. Clark Williams has cycled in front. They have the entirety effectively of that final lap still to fight. Heading out right now of the S's, or rather towards the S's, out of that first sector. But it's all as the top 3 dive their way down the hill in towards the hashtag RIP Oak Tree corner for one very final time. Once again, the wider exit from Mercer and Tufts, the tighter line from Barrington, but it's more speed for those top 2. Mercer wants to duck and dive, wants to cut the toe to the 2 behind, but Daniel Tufts is committed. Slides up to the rear gearbox and slinks to the inside. In towards the braking zone, it will be the long way around for Daniel Tufts, but the overspeed, the momentum, sees him already clear. Mark Mercer will try a drag race then towards the very final corners. A potentially perfectly executed pass at the very perfect time for Daniel Tufts. It's now just the run to the line. Out of turn 17 at Hogpen. Daniel Tufts has done just enough, it would seem, in the very final race of the Monday Night Skippys for the UK and Ireland. It's Daniel Tufts by the narrowest of margins that comes out on top.
And they're wheel to wheel for 5th, 6th, 7th and 8th here as well. Banging wheels at the end of the straight. We're almost 3 wide going into the final corner, but it's going to be Clark Williams coming out ahead as Tim Adcock goes off the track slightly. Clark Williams leading Cat, but here comes Cat to the inside. Dawson trying the outside 3 wide to the finish line. Who is it going to be? Dawson, I think, got it ahead of Cat.
They aren't at the line just yet.
Oh,
now they've got there. It will be Anthony Cat, I think. No, Dawson, by 0.02 of a second, comes out in 6th spot.
Wow.
Incredible finish. Clark Williams missed out on 6th. By about 0.05 of a second, missed out on 7th by 0.03 of a second. We'll get the very final cars to work their way to the line. I guess it's only fitting, Linus, that in the very final race, we got a photo finish at the front and a 3 wide at the line to close the chapter on 11 years of history.
Yeah, what a way to end this long-running series. With a 3 wide, even though it wasn't for the win, that was still a great battle to the end between 4 long-time drivers of this series as well. So that was great to see, and thankfully we got it live on stream as well.
It's great as well that after the participation slightly dropped, we were able to give it a 18-car send-off today. Tufts, Mercer, Barrington running their way around for a bit of a victory lap to celebrate what had been a pretty fun fight amongst the 3 of them. Keith Sharp, unfortunately, not amongst them in the closing stages. Just David Clapham to get to the checkered flag to bring a close to the 25 minutes of racing. We'll grab a look at the results. We'll hope to grab a quick chat with the drivers as well. 0.08 of a second, a tenth of a second. That's all that split Daniel Tuft from Mark Mercer, while James Barrington watched as the camera car on the run to the line. Keith Sharp in no man's land, equidistance from the top three, and then back to Chris Simpson in fifth, while David Dawson, Anthony Catt, and Clark Williams had a typical Monday night finish for sixth spot, with just under a tenth splitting the three of them. Tim Adcock and then Damien Gee make up the rest of your top 10, while Alan Patterson, Jamie Bird, Reece Saunders, Chris Wayne, Simon Mortby, David Clapham, Mark Van Dalen, and then Raphael Joust make up the rest of the 18-car contingent that went racing for 25 final minutes. Well, they're still working their way around for their victory lap, a well-earned victory lap as well. Linus, I asked you for some of your memories at the start before we say goodbye. I mean, when we closed out the coverage a year and a bit ago, we were hoping it was not the end of the Monday night community. Unfortunately, today it is the end, but it's a chapter and a history book that sees so much community being fostered.
Yeah, it is. It's a shame to see, but series never last forever, and seeing how long the series has been around is amazing. Back when I commentated on these guys first, I was a big part of the UK&I community without being UK&I myself. But it's been fun to see it grow. It's been fun to see people come and go. Then when I heard we were going to stop broadcasting it, I was sad about that, obviously. And now that the series is going to go forever, it's a big shame. But I'm sure someone will at some point start up something different. So the UK&I community obviously going to live on, but this series unfortunately is not.
I think that's the best way to say it. There will be something else, hopefully, that pops up that gives people a place to go and race these fantastic lower powered machines that do bring around so much racing, and like we mentioned, so many fantastic community members have made all of this happen, and so many commentators, so many drivers have used this as a bit of a stepping stone. And well, 15 years of iRacing was celebrated just a week or so ago in terms of the servers going live. Almost 11 of those years covered with Monday Night Skippys, and so much history as well here on RaceSpotTV. For now, though, it is time to say goodbye. For everyone that has been a part of the coverage over the years, for anyone who's been a part of the UK and Ireland Monday Night Skippys community, thank you so much for being a part of it. For everyone at RaceSpot, for Linus Broström alongside myself, Arjuna Kankipati, we thank you for joining us in saying goodbye, but it's not farewell forever. We'll see you next time here on RaceSpotTV. But thank you so much for joining the swan song of the UK and Ireland Monday Night Skippy community.